Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's do a complete beginner's guide to Stoneshard, shall we, in 2025 with the Rags to Riches update live. I did a complete beginner's guide to Stoneshard a couple years ago, and there's been some significant changes to the game, so I thought let's do a new guide and update this to reflect some different pathing, strategies, tactics that apply, and kind of try to cover a lot of the new content in the game. This is going to be a beginner's guide series because there's just so much to Stoneshard, and I like to be very thorough and explain everything to you contextually and naturally as the game unfolds. So we're going to start a brand new game, and you can play along with me to see what happens dynamically, or you can just watch if and get a feel for if Stoneshard is the type of game that you might want to play. Now, we're going to skip the prologue and just jump right into the game. I think the prologue is useful, but we will just cover all of that material in this guide series. Now, what we're going to do as we start our new game here is go to adventure mode, and we're not going to do Perma Death mode. In my guides before, and most of my time playing Stoneshard, I've done Perma Death mode, and I have come to a philosophical point with this game where I realize that what Stoneshard is, at its core, is not a roguelike, but a mercenary RPG, and I think it should be played as such. If you want the particular challenge of Perma Death, then go for it, but now that I see everything that Rags to Riches has to offer, it's really asking you to extend your game, and it's much longer than it used to be. It's not about just getting to Bryn, it's about even more. The map is bigger, there's so much more to do. You have a caravan, you are moving this around, and you are growing in a more profound way, and because of that, it just feels so bad to die and lose your character, and there are many ways that this game can beat you. Stoneshard is a brutal game, and the wrong move at the wrong time can cost you your character, and I find it's very frustrating. So if you want to come back and do permadeath later, after you have a real good knowledge of the game, then that's fine. But what we're going to do in this series is do just regular adventure mode without permadeath. Now, we're going to try not to die, but if we do happen to die, we will kind of observe what are the consequences of that and take advantage of being able to save the game at a bedroll or whatever, so that if a difficulty spike happens, which they happen all the time in this game, we don't lose all of our progress. Now, in this play, I'm not going to spoil anything for you. I'm not going to, tell you the fastest way to do everything, the best skills exactly that you should be picking, but rather I'm going to explain the fundamentals. I'm going to talk about the UI, the controls, some basic tips and tricks, and I'm going to recommend a very durable character type to play, but you don't even have to use this character. You can play with whatever build you would like. I just find that this is a great way to get into the game and feel like you have some options where you're just not getting killed instantly with some of the squishier characters. So we're going to click adventure mode, and you immediately start into a story, Osbrook, a few weeks later.
So here I am. The caravan is gone. My leg is crippled. Half my men are dead, and the other half are deserters and traitors. The host be praised. At least I've got the Stoneshard.
So another thing that the prologue does is it gives you more backstory about Varen, this old man who's talking to us right now, and what the situation is in the world with the Stoneshard and the undead and the plague and all of the other elements, which you can pick up too contextually by talking to people, finding notes and things. And in my Let's Play of the game, I go more thoroughly through the story, but for the guide, we're going to kind of streamline that as much as possible and just focus on the mechanics and how to play as opposed to the story.
If I knew I had to deal with an entire cult of devil knows what, I'd think thrice before getting into the whole mess. I'm too old for an adventure like this.
He is old, but he, handles himself very well in the prologue. And yes, we're going to be dealing with cults, so we better gear up.
Ah, if only I could have a good talk with Gwinnell right now. I'd ask him what the hell is going on. I've been doing this for 30 years, but I've never found myself in such a tough spot. I need to get back to Bryn. I'm not up to going there by myself, so that's why I sent for you. Do you remember how I helped you out back then? Well, time to return the favor. Damn, it's been so long. Tell me, what have you been up to?
So at this point in the conversation, he's asking you to kind of refresh his memory about you, and this is where you get to choose what type of character you're going to be. Now, currently, there are these 5 preset characters. Maybe at some point they will add custom character creation, but right now it is fixed. Now, I'm going to put in the description below, I have a Let's Play of the Rags to Riches update where I was doing Perma Death, and I started with a sorcerer. Well, actually, I started with a Revenger, died instantly, moved over to a Sorceress, and was having some good success, and then I died, and that's when I had my moment. And what I did was restart again as Arna, and Arna has always been one of my favorite characters, and she definitely delivers, and she is going to be what we choose. Now, again, you may choose whatever type you want. What you can do is just click on, for example, Arna, and you can see her starting stats. You can see her unique trait that she starts with. The affinity are the skills that she just starts the game knowing how, so you can progress in any of these particular skills without having to find the treaties in the world. And then there's a little bit of backstory about her. Now, what I like about Arna and why I recommend her as a new player is that she is tanky. And she starts out knowing swords and shields, and I think sword and board is a great way to play this game because injuries are so prohibitive. But if you want to just be, a wrecker and use like a two-handed sword or something like that and cleave through your enemies, then totally go for that. You could also, if you wanted to, be a reaver and use two-handed axes, or use, dual wield and have 2 axes out, and then that's also something that you can do. But when you look at Arna, I'm going to mouse over her unique trait, Vow of the Feet, and you can see that for each enemy within your vision, she receives -3 cooldown duration, -3 ability energy cost, and -3% damage taken, and this effect stacks for every enemy. So one of the worst things that can happen to you in Stoneshard is getting attacked by multiple enemies. You want to, if at all possible, fight one-on-one, but the game, even early, will do everything in its power to put you in a situation where you might be fighting, 1, 2, or even 3 enemies simultaneously, and you're going to need to figure out how to deal with that by using the terrain, using some crowd control measures, or using positioning and strategic fighting while retreating. These are all tactics that you might employ to try to tilt the odds in your favor when you're fighting multiple enemies, and Arna is already just good at that. So like if there's 2 enemies on the screen, then she is going to just take 6% less damage, for example. You could see the green numbers in this game are good. So even though it says -3, that means it's reducing it, which is good for us. So if something is in green in this game, it's good, and red is negative. Now here are your starting stats, and there's 5 stats. There's strength, agility, perception, vitality, and willpower. And you could see that Arna has like a pretty reasonable distribution. Everybody just starts out at 10 as the baseline, and then has some 11s smattered around. Arna is good at strength, agility, and vitality, and we're going to be leaning into strength. If you mouse over any of these, you can get a pop-up tooltip that explains what's going on with these different attributes. And the thresholds that you will gain benefit from when you reach. So, for example, every level you're going to get one attribute point that you can spend. And if we get strength to level 15, we will, as you can see at the bottom of this tooltip, get a bonus to damage that we're doing to body parts, to crit efficiency, and to armor damage. And that's nice, but really the key thing for us with strength is that it gives Arna more weapon damage and more block chance. And because I'm going to be doing a sword and shield build, being able to block more often is fantastic. There's some other, contenders here. Vitality is amazing. It just gives you some more energy, and every time you hit a threshold, you just get more hit points and block power recovery. So this is also very nice. Perception is good if you want to play a ranged character and get some bonus range, so you can shoot things with spells or bows further away. And agility is fantastic if you want to play a character that's not using armor and blocking as much as using dodging and countering. But I like just at least getting to 15 with strength. So always mouse over these. Willpower is fantastic if you want to be like a pure spellcaster. Always just look at your stats, look at your thresholds, and pay attention to where you want to kind of try to lean for your character. And these, like we said, are the skills that we start learning. But what's cool is, even if you start with Arna, she has no magic out of the gate. But if we find books, we can learn how to use magic with her if we want. Every character has the ability to learn anything if they want. They're just more well-suited for certain things. But what's cool about Stoneshard is that you can make hybrid characters. You can make like a caster who uses blades or even armor if you want to, So there's a lot of wiggle room. I like to kind of be a little bit more focused with my starting character so that we can lean into our strengths, and that's what we're going to do. So we're going to click confirm.
Is that so? Interesting. Anyway, enough pleasantries. It's time to get to work.
All right.
So here's the deal. I can't walk to Bryn with my leg like this. So unless you plan to carry me, we need a cart. We need horses.
Okay.
We're in luck, though. While you were away, I had a talk with the village elder. We came to an agreement. We'll do a couple of tasks for them, and they'll give us a cart and 2 horses. Don't worry about the job. It's nothing special. I don't think you need my advice on how to deal with brigands or the undead. The elder will give you the details. You should go see him right away. No time to waste. Ah, I almost forgot. Here's a map of the area. You need it more than I do.
Okay, so he gives us this map, and we're going to use this immediately to reveal the terrain and some locations on the map. I'll click confirm.
You can also ask the innkeeper about local events. He is a talkative kind. I'm sure he'll answer any of your questions. Off you go then. Good luck.
All right. So now we are off the rails and able to do what we like. So the first thing we want to do is just take a look at the screen. In the upper left, you can see that we have a quest gathering the caravan that we're tracking, and we need to go talk to the Osbrook elder. Very good. In the bottom center of the UI, you're going to see the action bar, your vitals, and some buttons for more control and getting to certain panels within the game. So let's kind of cover all of this. We're going to look at the bottom panel from left to right. So the first thing is your inventory. You could click on this little backpack here to open up your inventory, and it will pop up Diablo style, kind of take up half or, well, a portion of the screen. And you can push I to open and close that, as or just click on this button. I always just push I on the keyboard. We'll come back to that in a moment. The next is your character menu. You can click on this, and it opens on the left of the screen. And this is going to show you a lot of the information that we saw before about our, attributes or stats here. And you could see that we have 0 experience out of the 250 we need to get to the next level. We have no stat points to spend on our attributes. And what's cool about the game is it defaults to this screen, which gives you an amazing amount of detail about your different levels for combat, survival, damage resistance, and magic. And this transparency is great because this is a challenging game. So you could see, for example, right now, I'm doing 16 damage with the weapon I have equipped as my main hand damage, and it shows you, my accuracy to hit, my crit chance, the chance that I have to counter, etc. And we'll get more into this as we go, but I just pointed out, and you can look at this and mouse over anything to get even more description of what these numbers actually mean. Probably the most important thing for us here is this second tab, the health tab. And Stoneshard has a very intricate pain system and injury system that you have to deal with. So you can get hit in all of these different parts of your body, your legs, your arms, your chest, and your head. And they each have their own little health bar. And you can see how damaged you are in those areas and apply treatment to specific areas when needed. You also see, this is incredibly important, Stoneshard has a lot of survival elements to it. So you have to eat, you have to manage your hydration or your thirst. You can get intoxicated. You have a pain level that triggers based on damage that you take or spells and debuffs and things like that. You have fatigue, which means if you don't sleep, you can't just stay awake forever. You will start to get weariness and other debuffs if you stay awake too long. And then you have immunity to, this is resistance of a variety of maladies. You also have to manage your morale and sanity, which is like your mental health. And then we have no maladies. So you always want to be coming into this screen just to check. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? What's going on here? How's my character doing? Because these can have a significant impact on your success. Here, too, you could see any traits that you've acquired in the third tab. And then in the final tab, you just have your backstory if you want to check it out again. And then there's some racial information about us because we are a human. So I'm going to push C to close the character panel. The next one is the abilities screen, and you can click on this. It'll open on the right, and you can either use the button with the up and down swords or push S to open this. And this is where your abilities go, and every time you level up, you're going to get some ability points. So you get 1 when you level, but you start with 2. So you could see these kind of abilities that are shimmering. These are ones that we could learn. And remember, Arna starts knowing how to do swords, not axes, but she can't do maces or daggers, but she can do two-handed swords, and she can do two-handed maces. She can't do spears, she can't do ranged, she can do shields, she can't do stabs. So you can just kind of click on the different ability tech trees to see what you can learn, but it just corresponds to what your character starts with. But even though, for example, I don't have any ability to do pyromancy, if I find a book and learn it, then I can learn these. So what I think we should do here is talk about where do we put our ability points. The most obvious place to spend these would be in combat, and that makes a lot of sense. But don't sleep on utility. So the basic skills, you already know all of these. If it's outlined in purple, it means you know that particular skill. Dual wielding, we can't do that. But warfare, we can. And there are some interesting abilities that we might want to learn here. Athletics is very good, but we don't know how to do it. Armored combat, we start knowing how to do. Then there are 3 choices here for us. Survival, everybody knows how to butcher, starting. And I recommend you left click on butchering and just drag it down to your action bar down here. Any of the buttons are fine, but this way you can butcher, and you don't forget that you can do this. You can't butcher people, but any animals that you kill, you can butcher and get meat, which you can use for food. If you have followed my guide in the past, cooking is one of the crafting systems that the game has added that is new, or, well, I don't want to say it's new. It's more developed than it used to be. And so getting meat is incredibly useful. And then you can also learn make a halt, which means like if you're resting, just sitting down to recover your health, your vigor, which is kind of like your well-rested bonus, does not deteriorate. So you can take a break and still get the benefit of a good rest. And you also can get vigor from using a bedroll, and get even more if you take make a halt. So this is nice. And then cauterize wounds is a utility ability in survival that allows you to kind of like immediately stop bleeding, which can be huge because bleeding can kill you. Bleeding is a damage over time effect that you can get, and lots of different enemy attacks will inflict bleeding upon body parts. But we start with bandages, and I pretty much always carry bandages, so this is not a must-have early, but it's certainly something that you can get. Pay attention to the fact that you see how we start with butchering, and there's a little purple line going down. This tree tells you what are the prerequisites for the follow-up skills, but not only do you need to have the kind of like tier 1 ability learned that links to it on the tree, you also have to have that treatise. So we can't get any of these survival skills unless we find a tier 2 survival book. I like, starting out, I'm going to make some recommendations. Cleaving Strike. Cleaving Strike is an active ability that we can use that will hit 3 tiles. So it will kind of like sweep out and hits 3 adjacent tiles. And the key here is that not only can you hit multiple targets, remember, fighting multiple enemies is a surefire way to get yourself killed in this game, but sometimes it's unavoidable, and you want to have kind of an escape case or a contingency for that, and this provides that. But even single target, the key for Cleaving Strike is that it applies bleed. So if you can put bleed at 52% chance on the enemy, they will then just take damage every turn and will die much faster. So this is a great ability. I like it a ton, and it gives you 5% counter chance for 5 turns for each enemy hit. Counter is so good. If you counter attack in this game, as far as I understand it, I'm going to look at it some more, but the way I see it, you take no damage from the incoming attack, and then you retaliate with an attack of your own. So it's a full block and a retaliation. So getting more chance to do that will kill your enemies faster and keep you alive longer. So I'm going to left click on Cleaving Strike and confirm it, and it automatically goes to our action bar down here. And we'll talk about this in a moment, but very familiar concept. These buttons are all mapped to 1 through 0 on the number keys running along the top of your keyboard. You can click on them or push the corresponding number to use them. And when you learn a new skill and you have an empty slot, it will automatically map it for you. So Cleaving Strike is mapped here to 2, and that is fine with me. Now, the next skill I want to get is actually in the shield tree, and I like getting Breakthrough. So Breakthrough is an ability that deals 10 crushing damage, again, to 3 adjacent tiles. So both of these skills, if we learn them, we can hit multiple enemies to help us in a bad situation. It has 85% accuracy and a huge stagger chance. And if you stagger the enemy, it puts a debuff on them that will make life easier for us as well. It makes them, you can see that it applies some red number control resistance and move resistance, so some debuffs to their control and move resist. And it gives you some block power recovery. And then it has some differences based on if you're using a light shield, which is what we start with, or a heavy shield. So I like just having active abilities that I can use in combat, especially the ability to have a little bit of AoE to hit multiple targets. Now at the upper right of a skill, like we're trying to learn Breakthrough here, You could see there is the number 17 with the blue lightning bolt. That is how much energy this skill will take. And then there is an 11 with an hourglass, and that means it has an 11-turn cooldown. So you can't just spam a lot of your active skills. I'm going to learn this, and you see it goes to number 3. You use them, and then they go on cooldown. And they take energy to use. Energy is this blue bar right here. You could see if you mouse over it that you get a little bit of energy recovered every 5 turns. And then this red bar is our health. And this is replenished every 9 turns, but not while you're in combat. Now, I believe these numbers of turns taken to regenerate may change depending on traits, abilities, debuffs, etc. But that is where we are right now. So I have learned my 2 skills, and we can close the ability screen. Next, we can come to the quest panel, or the journal, and we can open this, and we can just get more information about the quest that we have. And we only have one, which is gathering the caravan. But what's very important here is we can look at the map. Now, we don't have very much of this map. We can look at our map. I believe it will uncover more of the map for us. And we'll talk about the map in a second, but you can see some of it here. You can also see the reputation you have from different factions and different settlements. So we're in Osbrook, and right now we're indifferent. But if we were to level up by doing quests for them and, taking actions and dialogue choices that they like, we can move up to benevolence. And if we're in benevolence with Osbrook, if that's our reputation level, then we can purchase higher quality equipments. The traders have more stuff, and we can even get advanced payments on contracts. And this can be moved up even higher depending on what you do for a settlement. And then over here you have your statistics that it keeps track about your character and your progress. So coming out of the quest panel and moving right along our UI element here at the bottom, of course, as we just talked about, we have our health and energy. If our health does drop to 0 or below, we are dead. And since this isn't permadeath mode, what that means is that we will be able to load at the last time that we saved the game. So you will have saved the game anytime that the game decides it wants to save it for you, or usually, in our case, it's going to be when we rest. So if you rested at the inn, or you rested at your caravan, or you rested at a bedroll in an appropriate location, you will save the game, and that's where you will be able to continue from if you die in adventure mode. Now, if you want to stop playing at any point, you can always just push escape to open up the options and just say save and exit. So you can be in a dungeon and save and exit, but this does not allow you to save scum, because as soon as you resume your game, that save file is deleted. It's just to save and quit, which is super useful, so you can stop at any time and resume with save and exit. Now, you could see that we have a button already mapped, which is this magnifying glass, and it is examine surroundings. This is an incredibly useful ability that every character has that you want to use all the time when you are in a dungeon, because it reveals all hidden traps and secret passages within your vision range. So it's not just tiles adjacent to you. It's not even necessarily a set radius. It is your vision, depending on what you can see at that moment. And anything there, you have a 100% chance to detect traps and secret passages. So this is something I spam this when I'm moving around so that I don't get hit by a trap, because traps can wreck you in this game. They could be like an alarm trap, which just triggers too many enemies for you to handle, and they all converge on you and annihilate you. Or it could be like a spear trap or something that does a bunch of damage to you and then puts bleeds and all kinds of debuffs on you that you don't really want to deal with. So examine surroundings is fantastic. You can also, as it says, find secret passages, which allows you to find a bunch of treasure that you can sell to make money, and is terrific. Then you see, of course, we have our 2 abilities that we just learned. I put butchering over here at number 7. You can left click to pick up and move any of these at any time if you want. You also can switch between different hotbars. It lets you put a bunch of stuff on hotbars if you want with this arrow. You have 5 that you can use. And at the far right, at 0, is crafting. Now, if you are new to the Rags to Riches update, but have played Stoneshard in the past, this is going to be new to you, and let's open this up. So, crafting allows you to make certain items, and all characters start knowing how to make some. Now, I say certain because it depends on what blueprints or recipes you know. It depends on if you're at a workbench and what tools you have at your disposal or facilities you have at your disposal. But starting out, everybody can make a splint, a bandage, a bedroll, a brushwood bundle, and fodder. And you could see if you mouse over like a splint, it will tell you what the item does at the top of the tooltip, and then below the 3 boxes are what items you need to make this happen. So you drag stuff over to this top portion, and this is the crafting area. And then, you know, if you mouse over splint, you see how the box is now checked because this bandage can be used to make a splint, but I need 2 sticks. And then if I had them, I could click splint and then click craft, and I would make myself a splint. For now, early in the game, we're not going to be doing much except making fodder. Fodder is a tremendous way to make money early in the game. We will need this to feed our animals when we are doing the business of traveling around once we get our caravan as we progress through the main story. But we don't have that right now, so we don't need it to feed any animals, but it allows you to turn, and this is kind of tricky, but let's read this. It says, grain and some other types of food and herbs can be transformed into fodder. Vegetables, herbs, straw, grain, most things that you can forage and find, just throw in here and turn it into fodder. It makes it so you have a compact way to carry these items because they're now fodder, and it sells for more money. So it both consolidates your space and makes you money. So we're going to be doing this a ton. Let me close this, and then moving right along here, you could see we've got the modes and actions, and this is very important because if you push this, it opens up 4 little buttons. There is rest, there is attack, there is reload, and there is shout. So I currently am going to move a few of these down here on my action bar. So I want reload. I don't have a ranged weapon right now, but we're going to get one, so I'm going to put that here. I'm also going to take shout and put it here. And then you can map the rest button if you want, but I believe you could just push R on the keyboard to rest, and so I'm not going to map that. You don't have to put these, on your action bar, because you can just open this up and leave it open if you want, close it back up, pushing B or clicking on it. But reload and shout are 2 that I want to have ready. Skip turn is this hourglass, and I always do this by just pushing the space bar. This is very valuable in turn-based games, so that you can skip a turn and let an enemy come closer, for example, without moving, and then escape and options. So that's all of the buttons on the UI, but we started with the inventory, and let's actually talk about this inventory. So with the inventory, you could see the upper portion of this has your equipment, and it's your paper doll. This is our left hand, and we have, pick whatever hand you like. In one hand, we have a sword, and in one hand, we have our little shield. Right below the weapon, there is this switch weapons button you could push, and you have a second slot for a weapon loadout. You could push W at any time to do this, to switch to a different weapon. It takes 1 turn to switch weapons. So if an enemy is adjacent to you and you want to switch to your 2-handed weapon or switch away from your ranged to your melee weapon, for example, it will take a turn and they will get to hit you. So you need to put that into your calculations for how much time you have in your sequencing if you want to switch weapons. Now, I start, because I'm Arna, with these 2 purple items, my sword and my cuirass. And you, like my armor, basically, your starting stuff is going to be different based on your character. It is worth noting, in the upper right of these items, there is a Roman numeral, which is the tier of this. So this is like a tier 1 item. And the higher this number goes, this Roman numeral in the upper right, the higher the base of the item type is, and generally the better it is, depending on its condition and attributes and things. And the key for all equipment in this game is durability. You can see that my sword starts at 55 out of 55 durability, and it's doing full of all of its benefits. It's got 16 slashing damage, 5% plus to armor penetration, 3% better chance to counter, 3% better chance to block. It gives us a bonus to block power. It does make our skills cost slightly more, but that's okay. And in the bottom right, there is a value. It's worth 75 coins. But it's worth noting that the value of an item is a good, barometer to kind of gauge how valuable something is, but it is not reflective of how much money somebody is going to pay you for it, because there's lots of that goes into that. Your reputation, the desirability of the item, the condition of the item, etc. So you can use that to see what's more valuable than other items in your inventory, but you're not going to get that exact number from vendors. They're making a profit after all. Now, the reason I mentioned condition is look at my armor. My armor is actually very good as a starting item, but it's broken. Its durability is in red. You can see it's 34 out of 75. And when your items start to lose durability based on use, right? So if you get hit with your armor, durability goes down. You hit stuff with your sword, or you break open crates, your durability goes down. They become less effective. And how much less effective is shown on the tooltip. So at the top of this, you could see this is supposed to offer 6 protection, but it's losing 2 protection. As you see in parentheses, there's the -2 and the broken shield. That means it's broken. This item is broken, and as a result of that, it has this negative effect. So if we were to get this repaired, we could improve the effectiveness of this item, and you really want to be at high level of repair with your stuff to get max benefit. I have a cloak that I've started with, a little cowl, and I have my shield, and I've got some shoes. Now, this is all pretty bad stuff except for my sword and my armor, but it's starter equipment. I do start with 250 orns, as you can see right here, and these are the items that I begin with. So I got this map. Let's go ahead and right-click on this right away and just say Use, and if I use it, look at that. All of this part of the map comes into relief. Now, you can get to this map screen at any time by pushing M. I believe, I think it works in a dungeon if you use it, but you will not be able to see an interior map of a dungeon. This is just the overall map. And you see we begin knowing the adjacent tiles to Osbrook. So here we are. This little kind of yellowish silhouette is our character. And this shield icon with the fleur-de-lis, this like yellow gold shield, is a quest indicator. And you can mouse over a item of interest to see this is Osbrook. This is the mill. This is the Drunken Woodsman Inn down here to the southwest. And then there's the Oak and Barrel Brewery, but you see how it's not in color. I've never been there. He gave me the map, so I know it's there. But if I actually travel there, then the map will fill in color, and I can get even more detail about things like this. This question mark means it's a point of interest. There's something there. We don't know what it is, but we should visit it and check it out. So a lot of this game is walking around and exploring so that you can uncover tiles. One of the main benefits of uncovering tiles is that you can settle your caravan there. So like if I wanted to park my caravan, which we will get, after doing a few contracts and progressing with the main story, if I wanted to settle it next to this brewery, I couldn't put it here because I've never been here. Yes, I have a map, but until I actually travel there, I can't settle there. So you want to move around, and as you move around, you will find more points of interest, and you will just get a better understanding of what's around you. So here is our map. I'm pushing M to close that. I start with this water skin, and remember, if I push C to open the character panel and I go to the health, remember we do have a thirst indicator, and you can see that there's negative effects at 25, 50, and 75% thirstiness. Every drink I take out of this water skin cures 25% of my thirst. And the blue bar underneath the water skin is how full it is. It has several uses, so this is a very generous water skin. You can top this off a lot of places, so carrying one is usually fine unless you need to be out for a long time, then you might want a second, but one is going to be okay for us. We also start with some food, so this bread will cure 14% of our hunger. It also does, you could see the thirst plus 5%. It's dry, so it makes you thirsty. And it gives you a little bit of hunger resistance, so your hunger goes down. Like, you become hungry slower after eating this nice filling bread. Here is our money pouch, and this is an incredibly important thing about the money pouch or your purse that has changed in this update. I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to say open, and you see it brings up another screen here. It used to be that this purse would just hold money, and so all of your crowns go into this pouch, and you can see each stack goes up to 100. So this is a 4x5, so I can hold, 20 stacks of 100 crowns. But what's really important, you see the silhouette here, it's kind of hard to maybe understand this, but you can put gems and many one square large valuables into this pouch. So it can be used to alleviate your inventory space concerns, which are legion. Your inventory is very small in this game, and there are a lot of things that you actually want to carry with you. So don't sleep on using your pouch to store some things. We also have 2 healing salves, which you can use to help an injured body part recover better, and bandages you use to stop a bleeding effect on a body part. We also begin with a splint, so this stabilizes a injured limb that has an indication there will be a specific debuff for bleeding or for broken that you need to apply a splint to. We start with 3 healing salves, and we also start with 3 lock picks that we can use to pick locks. This button right here, T, or click on this to auto sort your inventory. And now we are cooking with gas. We've explained the inventory, the character screen. We have talked about the map. We've assigned our buttons. We've assigned our ability points. We've looked at the journal, and we've talked about all of the fundamentals of the UI that are important at this moment and can now actually move around and explore Osbrook. So the first thing you should know about moving is that you can click to move, and if you put your cursor around, you see there's a white box, which is my destination, and the white dots that are leading to that point the path that I will take. But if I click to move there, I will move to each of those dots, but each time it will take a turn. So if there is an enemy about, I will be moving, and then they will be moving as well every time I take a step. So if there's enemies, you usually want to move 1 square at a time. And you can use the mouse to click to move, or you can use the numpad to move around, and that's generally what I like to use if I need precise movement. Now, as I get further north here, just using the numpad arrow keys to move around, it's going to tell us about the save system. So let's discuss this. To save the game, you either need to sleep for any amount of time or use a suitable sleeping spot for a momentary rest. This can usually be done in taverns, cleared out camps, or by using bedrolls, which can be crafted or bought from some traders. Exiting the game saves your progress as well. However, this exit save is deleted upon loading, as we talked about. If you die in adventure mode, you can resume playing from the last save made by sleeping. So, this means we're not going to lose everything because we're in adventure mode. We're not in permadeath mode, thank goodness. And if you want to save the game beyond just exiting, we're going to need to talk to the innkeeper and sleep here to do that. However, I do believe that the game has created an autosave for you in addition. Like, there are some autosaves that happen independent of your sleeping saves, I believe. And I think the game saves it, like, once you've chosen your character. So that if we were to go die right now, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think we would just start right back here. And not have to start a brand new character again. I think they would do at least that for us, but I could be wrong about that. So let's talk about how to save it. We come up here, and you see as I'm moving the mouse cursor around, if it's red, it means I can't move there, or if there is a red outline around an item, like if the hand, if the outline around the item becomes red, then that means you're stealing. But these jars you can actually take because the outline is white. They're allowing you to have this. But you see how this chest, if I were to try to take from these barrels, then it's a red outline. The whole thing becomes red, meaning like this is theft. So when you mouse around, your cursor changes to a hand when it's to pick something up, a little dialogue bubble. It's contextual for talking to NPCs. There's the kitty cat, or opening a container. And this chest icon, it will be closed if you haven't yet searched and looted it. And then if you have, the chest icon will display as open, so you could kind of like easily keep track of where you've been. And then you see here on this cook pot, over the hearth here, there is a gear symbol for the mouse cursor. And this means you can interact with it. And it could be a variety of things. It's like pulling a lever, or in this case, it would be to go up here and craft. Like we want to do some cooking, and you may use this to cook. But I'm just going to talk to this guy, so I'm going to left click on him. You can also right click to open up a deeper contextual menu, and you could talk. You can just jump right to buying and selling to go to trade. You can inspect them, and you can attack them. I don't really recommend attacking people in the town. It will not end well for you. You will aggro the guard. They will either... I don't know if I've rightly done it, but they will either just attack and kill you, or they will arrest you and put you in jail and fine you ostensibly. I'm not sure, but it's bad. So I'm going to just talk, and Bruck, the innkeeper, you open up your little dialogue window here. He says, "You're a friend of Varen, right? Welcome to the Black Boar. There's no finer establishment for leagues. Frankly, I wouldn't even bother with that overpriced hovel in Manshire they call a tavern." Ooh, he's throwing shade. Manshire is kind of one of the next large settlements that you will go to. Not as large as Bryn, like the giant kind of port city, but I would say it's a little bit more on the up and up than Osbrook. But anyway, he doesn't like it. And so he says, "So do you need more beer, or are you here for a chat?" And there's several options here. The gold text, this is always here for NPCs if you can trade. If you want to look at their wares, what are you selling? This green text, it says allows to save the game. This only appears at inns where you can rest, or any other place where you are interacting to buy a night's sleep, basically. And then there's other dialogue that you can do here to get lore. Now remember, in the tutorial here, I'm not going to go into the lore, but I advise you to if you want to find out more about the story. But then this sixth option, it says anything new around here. This is a good idea to ask of every NPC that you encounter, because what this will do is potentially the NPC knows of something in the area, and then it will mark it on the map for you as a question mark, as like a point of interest. They might be like, "Hey, I heard something about, like I heard a rumor that there was a crypt over here, or that there was like bandits over here," or something like that. And then it will just help give you places to go on the map. And just pro tip, whenever you go to a question mark location, many of them, if you uncover what the question mark, the point of interest is, it will be some kind of name location, and it will just give you experience for discovering it. And it's a great way to get experience early in the game. So if I say anything new around here, he just is going to say that like war never changes. Indeed, it doesn't. And he doesn't help us out in that way. But if I want to save the game, you get these options. You can rent a room for 1 day for 15 crowns. A week is 90 and 2 weeks is 150. Here is my opinion. Don't buy any of these until you need them, and I never do more than a day. It's cheaper to do like a week. I think, they give you a discount, of course, the longer you pay out, but I don't typically do it that way myself. You can if you want, but I don't know how long I might want to be sleeping here, or I might want to sleep someplace else. So I usually just do it day by day and pay like the extra few crowns for the convenience of not being locked into some contract with this man. And money is too important to me right now. If I had more money, maybe, but I like to do it a day at a time. I'm not going to... You know what? I lied. I'm going to rent a room. I'm going to just do this to show you what it's like. I'm going to get a room for right now. You might not need a room right now because your character isn't tired. You're not weary. You're not tired. You're not fatigued. And you're not hurt. But it will allow us to save the game. So I'm going to buy one for 15. And he says your room is upstairs at the end of the hall. And don't worry about your belongings. Just put them all in the chest by the bed. Your things will be safe in there. I guarantee it. So I'm going to say good luck. And actually, wait, one more thing. The main thing that's good from innkeepers in any town that you can buy is food and drink. And this is where I come to get my food usually. Cooking your own food is cheaper, but I'm very lazy, and I like their food. If you have good recipes and you have the right ingredients, you can make amazing food, like these items where we have this bread, right? We have this, and all the bread does is restore our hunger, makes us thirsty, and gives us a little bit of hunger resistance. But some of these fancier recipes, like these potatoes with mushrooms, they restore your hunger, restore your energy for 240 turns, restore your fatigue, and give you hunger resistance for 240 turns, and just reduce your fatigue by 5%. There's so many different buffs and bonuses from the food that I like to buy these. Now, if you're cooking and you want to travel with your meal, you will need a plate or a bowl to carry the food in. But if you buy this potatoes with mushroom dish, for example, and you eat it, you will end up with a plate. You can just sell the plate back for like a crown or two, or you could carry it around and use it to transport more food if you're making it in the field. Beer or ale, whatever kind of alcohol they have, is actually very good for helping with your morale. So remember, you have like your main kind of metrics for physical well-being, but you also have your mental health well-being, your sanity, and your morale. And morale dropping is a complete, it's a bummer, man. And if you have high morale, you have a chance of like getting a big buff where your character is in good spirits and you feel great and you just do better at everything. Low morale, you can get down and have bad like debuffs. So alcohol is a good way to restore morale. However, it does intoxicate you and cause light drunkenness, which makes moving around not ideal. But what you can do, if you'd like, is like drink some booze and then go to sleep, and then the drunkenness will be worn off when you wake up. Also, sleeping in a nice bed, eating good food, these things also help you restore morale. So there's all these different food options. I'm actually going to buy these potatoes with mushrooms because it's pretty cheap. It's 18 crowns and it restores a good bit of hunger, and I need one more meal I would feel good about having. But I want to tell you, you got to pay attention. You see how it says will spoil in 3 days. That means this is only good for 3 days. But 3 days in this game is actually kind of like an eternity. You will need to eat before 3 days, so this is not going to go bad. I'm just going to right-click and then say buy, or you can shift left-click, I believe, just to automatically buy it. Some other things that are worth noting on this screen. This 598 with the crown symbol, this is how much money he actually has. So if you want to sell stuff to him, he has 598 that he can pay. If he wanted to buy anything from us in our inventory, which you see illuminated on the right panel, it would be highlighted, like it would be in full color, but you see how everything is grayed out? That means he doesn't want anything that we have. Even this food, he doesn't want it. And if you want to see what he will buy, you can go up here to these two buttons, and this button on the right is about the trader, and he will buy jewelry, valuables, alcohol, meat, barrels of beer, crates of wine, pails of cider, sacks of salt, and he restocks his inventory in 2 days. So this will tell you, like, if you're curious, who do I sell to? Who will buy my stuff? You can always look at this to kind of find out what they will buy. Now, in general, in Stoneshard, people who produce something, like if it's the blacksmith, they will generally pay more for stuff that they trade in, metal. And the carpenter, woodworker will pay you more for wood-based stuff, and the tailor, cloth-based stuff. Like, it kind of matters who you sell to. They will give you a higher price if that's their trade, usually. And some people will buy it from you, but he will buy jewelry from you, the innkeeper, but he's not going to necessarily give you as good of a price as a jewelry shop. So sometimes you have to make a decision on, do I want to sell my stuff here and just get it sold, even though it's at a bit of a loss, or do I want to go try to find the specialty shop that will pay me the most? And you kind of want to keep track of how much people will pay to optimize your finances. Then this one right here, the supply, tells you how much he marks stuff up, and this is his demand. So, you could see how much he's paying for certain goods. And there is a whole new mechanic that they've really added to the Rags and Riches update, which is transporting, like, commodities. So you could get a huge barrel of beer, which is a trade good, and it's giant. It takes up a lot of space in your inventory, but you're kind of meant to transport these, I believe, with your caravan, and you can buy low and then go sell high and use supply and demand to make extra money that way if you want to be like a trader. But for now, we're not going to be having that kind of stuff. We're just going to be selling things that we get out in the field. So check this to see what they'll buy. Check this to see what their rates, their supply and demand is. This is how much money they have. This is what they will sell us. And anything illuminated in our inventory is what they will buy from us. And you can mouse over it to see like how much they would pay, but he won't buy anything. So I'm just going to push escape. Here's his wife, and you could come talk to her. And what's cool about this game is, like, everybody will sell you something. And in many inns, Manshire, Osbrook, for example, there's two people that you can buy from, and they sell different food. So she has, like, these mushroom salads, for example. And food is really interesting, the pricing on it. Like, you have to kind of really look. Like, you see how this is the same as what we paid, but it doesn't restore you as well for hunger, but it's good for immunity and intoxication. So you kind of have to weigh, like, what do you want from your food? And she won't buy as much as her husband, but she does, have a little bit extra stuff. But everybody in this game, just about, you can buy from. And they might not have anything good. They might have, like, one mug of beer or one piece of bread if they're just, like, some rando. But it's kind of a cool feature that you can see what people have. But what I want to do is talk to her. You can also get a room from her. I'm going to say, heard anything interesting? And nah, she doesn't have anything interesting. So because we've rented a room, let's go upstairs. This is another mouse icon. You could see a door with an arrow. This means you're going to change zones. You're either going to go upstairs, you're going to go outside, you're going to go in a dungeon. So whenever you see this, understand that you're going to be changing like zones, basically, or screens. And now we've gone upstairs. This room is this dude's. They said at the end of the hall. So this is not our room, this tiny one. We actually get this, like, palatial room at the end here. You can open this up. This apple is unfortunately stealing, so don't take it. But this is what I want to show you. First of all, if you want to sleep, we can. And we rented this for a day, so we could sleep multiple times if we want. We have it for the whole day. He'll tell you when you don't get it anymore, by the way. Like, the game won't even let you sleep there if you don't have it rented. But what I'm going to do is, before we sleep, I'm going to click on this chest. You see how he said you could put your stuff in the chest? There's a white outline around it. I'm going to click on this and open it up. And this is kind of like extra storage that you have right now at the game. Once you get your caravan, it's a better place to store things. But I don't want to carry this map anymore. Nobody's going to buy it that I've seen yet. And I've already read it, so I don't need it. It takes up a lot of space. I'm also going to put some stuff in here that I don't feel like I need to be carrying with me. And I think I don't need 3 healing salves. I'm going to save one and put it in here. So put whatever you want in here. I'm going to carry everything else for the time being. I pushed auto sort here, T, to kind of get my inventory ready, and now I'm done. Now, this chest, the inventory will always stay here. So anytime you want to get in here, I can't remember if you have to actually rent the room to access this or not, but this stuff will never disappear. So you can always come back here and get it. And I feel like it used to be that the inns would share storage, but they don't anymore. So if you have an inn in Manshire or Bryn or some other place, they have their own chest, and if you put stuff in there, you have to actually go physically back there to get it. But it's no big deal. This is just a great way to store some stuff that you don't want to carry around because inventory space is so limited in this game. I'm going to click on the bed, and once you click on the bed, it tells you, how long you could sleep for. And we could sleep, this many hours if we want, but I don't want to use too much daylight. I'm only going to sleep and just click rest. Let's see if this saves the game. Yeah, it does. Okay, so I didn't sleep any time at all. All I did was just save the game. So I just clicked on the bed, selected 0 hours, and saved the game. Now, the longer you sleep, if you get like 8 or 9 hours, you will get a vigor bonus, which is basically means you're well rested. And I think that 8 or 9 hours is the sweet spot. If you sleep less than that, you might get a slightly less vigor bonus. But if you sleep in this nice bed, you're going to get a big vigor bonus, which will give you boost to all of your stats. Will just be a nice buff that will last for a pretty good amount of time. And it's a great idea if you're going to go do something to get a good night's sleep beforehand. I'm going to leave now. We've saved the game. We've stored some items. And we can bust out of the inn. And now we are in Osbrook proper, and we're outside on the main square. And let's talk about what we've got here. By the way, you see, remember I told you about discovering locations? We just got 50 experience for discovering a location. When you discover a location in this game, you'll see that white text with the underline, kind of like title that will just pop up on the screen. And you can always look in your log to see if you did, in fact, trigger a new location and get some experience. So, hey, look at that. 50 experience, our first experience. So, what you want to do first is talk to this drunk down here. And many people in this town will just give you quests, and they're worth doing. They have some rewards. You can build reputation in the town. And it's just a great way to get started. So, if people have a quest, you can ask them, do you have any work for me? And he says, yes, I do. I lost everything, and I've lost it all, and he wants some brandy. So all you need to do is give this guy a bottle of brandy, and he will give you a reward. So we say deal. And once we get a deal, you see in the upper left, you hear that chime sound, or I don't know what kind of a sound I would describe that as, but there was a sound, and that means you got a new quest. And if we push J for our quests, we have 2: gathering the caravan, which is the main quest, and also ram the drunkard's request. He needs a bottle of brandy, so you could track whichever you want, and you could show the quest on your map. Now, you used to be able to buy a bottle of brandy from the innkeeper in this town most of the time, but they stopped letting you do that. You can get brandy in bigger towns, or sometimes you receive it as a reward, or you can find it. So that's just going to be something that we want to do. This dude right here is the area hunter. This guy kind of like moves town to town, so he might not always be here, but if he is in a town, he's usually sitting out in front of the inn. And you can ask him, like, how long is he going to stay here? A couple of days. And he tells you about his location, about his cabin. So if somebody tells you about a map location, you'll see that little window pop up with the question mark, and then that means like we've got a new place to discover, which is his cabin. And you can see what he's selling. He is selling a bedroll. This will allow us to save progress. And If you use this in a dangerous location, you could get ambushed, which is unfortunate, and you can't place this inside dungeons. Now, this is 100. This is expensive, but it's certainly worth our consideration so that we can save the game. Now, what's kind of funny is I always play permadeath mode, and I've only just recently started playing in adventure mode, where this would actually be something I can use. And I'm going to just tell you that your mileage can vary on this. I'm not going to buy this right now. The advantage to buying this would be that if we have a contract and they want us to go to a crypt or a dungeon or something, we can go there on the map, and then we can rest outside of it to save the game and then go in. And then if we die, we will just wake up right outside and not have to retrace our steps and lose very much progress. So it's convenient. The downside is that it's enormous, and it takes up a lot of our inventory space. So what I'm going to do is anytime I'm going out for a job or a contract, I'll just get a room at the inn and I'll save it there. It will require more backtracking if we die, but I'm just going to try not to die. So that's my plan. But if you want to be safer, just buy this bedroll. You can afford it. Remember, we start with some money. We started with $250. I bought a room at the inn, and I bought some mushrooms. So there's where we are. You can also buy, this guy sells a variety of things. So what he is selling will be different for you, I believe. It's randomized. You can buy a trap, which you can put down and then try to lure enemies on top of it, so that they get stuck in place. And, this is a cool way to deal with multiple enemies if you want. I'm not going to buy this, but this is something you can experiment with. You can also buy caltrops. So if you're running and you want to drop these down and try to get somebody off your tail, you could use these if you would like. And obviously, I'm discussing these within the context of human encounters, but he's a hunter. He means for you to use these against animals. So, like, if you wanted to fight a bear, like he killed a bear, or, a moose, or a deer, or a fox, or a wolf, maybe these things would help you. I'm going to just be real with you. In the beginning of the game, don't mess with animals at all. Animals are way harder than humans. Animals are harder than some of the early bosses in this game. Do not mess with animals. Usually, animals will warn you as you approach them, and if you back off, they won't follow you. They're like territorial. But if you go poking the bear, as it were, the bear will follow you forever until you or the bear are dead. And even if you use a trap, you might not be able to do enough. You probably won't be able to do enough damage to a bear to kill it. Now, if you can kill a bear or a wolf, then you could sell their stuff. It is valuable. But right now, I would not encourage messing with that. So we come down here, and you could see there's a little sign right here. You can click on this, and it's the smithy, and there's the blacksmith right there. And let's talk to the blacksmith. And again, you could say, what are you selling? And this, you could see what this guy has. Now, here is my pro tip, number one recommendation that you buy. You do start with lockpicks, but I would recommend that you spend some of your starter money on a crowbar. It's only 60, and the crowbar is insanely good. What this does is lockpicks, you only have a chance to pick a lock, and it has 3 uses. The crowbar is 100% chance that you will open a lock, disarm a trap, or dislodge. You can like pry open doors and things. So it is so good, I'm buying it. Now, if you want, you can go to your you could switch and equip the crowbar as a weapon. It actually does 12 crushing damage. And this allows you to kind of carry it in your secondary weapon slot so you don't take up inventory space. But I'm not going to do that right now because I'm going to use a ranged weapon in my secondary slot. But that's a great thing that you can do. Now, at this point, you could sell your lockpicks, or you could put them in your chest and save them for later. I'm going to actually just sell these lockpicks. They don't sell for a ton, and it's probably more economical to like try to use them and save durability on your crowbar, but I'm just going to get rid of them. I'm just going to shift left click and sell them. The cool thing about the crowbar is this as well. You see it has 10 durability. As you use it, the durability will go down. But instead of buying a new one, you can just come repair it. It's not that expensive to repair it. And then you will be able to use this crowbar forever. If you ever need your gear repaired, you have to go to the appropriate person who can repair it. If it's metal, you go to the blacksmith. If it's cloth, you go to the tailor, etc., or whatever. And they will have this little anvil icon here next to their how much money they have, and you can click repair. And then when you click repair, everything that can be repaired on your inventory will jump out. And this is something that we certainly want to repair, which is our chest piece, because it starts out so damaged. However, you see it's very expensive to repair it. So I'm not going to repair it right now because it's so costly, but we're going to try to save up to do that. Our sword is already at full durability, so we don't need to repair it. All I'm going to do here is just go ahead and buy myself this crowbar. He also sells a trap, and with Arna, unless you want to switch to using a two-handed weapon, and you can, if you want to build her as a two-handed weapon person, you don't need to buy a weapon. Her sword is good. He also sells a crafting kit, which lets you craft without a workbench, but we don't need to worry about that right now. We don't have enough recipes to even make that worth it. And again, you could see what he'll buy and sell, and what his supply and demand is. Now, even though this guy will buy and sell weapons, this is the reality. Stoneshard is a war-torn game. Like, the entire area, the world that we're in, is war-torn. And because of that, there's so many weapons everywhere that weapons are just about useless. You can't really buy and sell, like, you can't, even if you find weapons, no one wants to buy them, not even the smith. If people want to buy a weapon from you, it needs to be a very high durability level. They won't buy stuff that's broken or low durability at all. And even if they will buy it, they will give you just about nothing for it relative to how big it is. Like, you see how large this is in terms of your inventory space. So usually weapons are not a profitable way to carry yourself. You want to be finding stuff like even horseshoes, junk, things that are small that people will buy that have no durability, that you can carry. So weapons are not great. Even if they're magical, they have to be high durability. You have to identify them. So we're not going to usually be picking up weapons. And I just tell you that now because it's easy to just overburden yourselves with weapons, because that's a lot of what people will drop, but it's just about pointless. Now, if you want to scrimp and save, you can make a few extra bucks doing that. I just don't personally recommend wasting your time with it. So know that even though this guy sells weapons, coming here to sell him weapons is a waste of time, but you can sell him nails, horseshoes, other cauldrons, metal stuff, and he will buy that at a good price. So after we get our crowbar from the blacksmith, the next thing we want to do is talk to him again, and he can teach you something. So this allows you to train in some skills. So you can pay out money to open up skills on the tree, but we don't have the money. But the main thing we want to see here is, again, a quest. Do you have any work for me? And we say yes. And he says that he wants Odar, the village elder, wants you to go ahead and get some weapons. So he needs cleavers and crude simple blades. So we say yes. And this is very specific. It has to be simple blades and cleavers, and it has to be 3 of them. So there's lots of weapon, peasant flail, stuff like that, shivs that you might find from bandits that do not count. So if you get them, it's not what you need for the quest. So we say deal, and we can get a quest. And this quest actually pays, I think, 150 crowns or something like that. It's a good quest, pay-wise. Another very, very important area to note is the well. So you can see if I click on it, with the gears, I drink from the well, but I can also right-click and then say collect water, And then you can use, you see the cursor changes into a targeting reticule, and you can aim at your water skin and fill it up if that blue bar were depleted. It's full. We can't fill it up right now, but you can fill this up for free, and this water is clean and safe to drink. Also, right here, I think sometimes there is a quest where, like, this guy has been disappeared, and you have to find him and save him in a dungeon, but the more I've been playing this update, that hasn't been the case, and this guy is always here. And this vendor, the other 3 vendors sell food of different kinds, like this guy sells meat and grains and vegetables and berries and stuff. But this guy is kind of like, you know, the pawn shop man, and he sells just about everything. He has randomized loot, but you could find all sorts of things at Burt, and he will buy a ton of different items. He doesn't always give you the best prices, but they're good enough. I usually sell to Burt, and then he asks you to stick with him, and you say, what do you propose? And he says, you know, the previous mercenary used to bring me all kinds of wares, and you're like, what did he sell you? So that's fine. We're like, okay, great. But he also, you could say, do you have any work? And he says, he met an elf at the Bryn Market who needed a bison pelt and the horns. So you can get this quest from him to get this bison pelt and horns and just have it in your back burner. But also, if you go to selling, you can see that this dude has a ton of different items. He sells scrolls, he sells rings, he sells crafting items. He also sells a bedroll here, a pot for cooking. I'm not going to buy any of this right now, but I'm going to point out that if you look at what he trades in just about everything. So again, you can look at his supply and demand, and his list is enormous. So this is kind of, if you can't find somebody to buy something from you, you can always check with him to see if he'll buy it. And what you want to look for, let's see. Well, he is selling 2 identification scrolls, so I'm going to buy both of these. Identification scrolls used to be really expensive in this game. Now they're about 11 crowns. And they are incredibly important for identifying magical items you get. Most of the time, they're not identified when you find them. And even if you equip them, you won't really know what they do. And so you're going to want to ID. But the problem with IDing them is there aren't that many scrolls of identification early game that you can get. Sometimes this guy might not even have any. And if somebody has 2, I always buy them and just save them. Usually, it's not even worth identifying something to even sell it. Because the price of the ID scroll and the price of repairing the item generally outweigh the cost that you can get from selling it. But what I like to do is any slot on your character that doesn't have a good piece of equipment. So for Arna right now, that's going to be anything that's not armor or main sword, and I get a magical item there, I'm going to want to ID it and see if it's an improvement over the base level stuff that I can buy. So I'm going to sandbag these. I'm probably going to put these in the chest at the inn to save them. They're nice and cheap. They used to cost like 100. Thank goodness they reduced the price. And they come around more frequently. There's also an enchantment scroll. This is expensive. I wouldn't buy it because sometimes the buffs you can get for them are terrible. But if you can find them, they're worth using. And then disenchantment if you get a cursed item. You can check to see if he's just randomly selling brandy. He is not. So we're just going to say, okay, good. We got another quest from him. And then we can come into the tailor right here. And you see the fog of war, all this black area around the map. The more you move around, the more you will uncover this and be able to see what's going on anywhere in the game. However, it is worth noting that if you move away from an area and can no longer see it, you will still have the visibility of what that area looks like, but it will be frozen because, you know, enemies or things can be moving, so you don't really know what's going on those tiles or where the NPCs or enemies are, but you have a vague recollection of, like, where the walls and trees and such are. Now, this is the tailor, and he doesn't like us because we're a woman, and he's just a, you know, generally a bad person, but that's okay because we can use him to get some items and work, and so he does have work. So he wants bear fur. Again, I'm going to tell you that a lot of these quests, the horns, the bear fur, these are not usually worth buying. It's because the reward won't justify the cost of the purchase. But if you can find them or actually hunt them down and acquire them, then it's worth your while. But it's still important to just pick up all of these quests, in my opinion. And you can get more lore from him. You can see if there's anything new, and then you can see what he's selling. He actually has a lot of good stuff, and I want to point out a few things. First of all, your upgrades should be on slots that are empty on your paper doll. So we have no gloves, we have no belt, rings, necklace, for example. But what I want to show you is he can sell you quivers, which are good for holding arrows, and if you plan on being ranged. And he also could sell backpacks. Now, backpacks take the place of your cloak, so you will lose the protective bonus of the cloak, but you will gain some more inventory space. So that's something that you can consider as an option. But this is where you can buy like a new hat, new gloves, and shoes and stuff. And he will buy anything cloth related, and he also will repair anything that is cloth and leather related. Then the next place I want to show you is over here, which is our good buddy, the Carpenter's Workshop. And this is the Carpenter here, and Jurg is the Carpenter. And he has some information. I'm just clicking through his dialogue that you can get dirt on the Elder, and this will open up a new quest path for you with the Elder when it comes time to do a specific job for him to progress the story. You can either do what the Elder says, or you can take Jurg's path because you find out that the Elder is shady. And I leave it up to you. I'll show you how to do that. So what you want to do is just say, I see you're not fond of the Elder, and just listen to him. And then just keep talking to him about everything regarding Dwar, Odar, etc. And then you can ask him if he's heard interesting. And he showed us some hunting grounds, which is cool. And this is where you want to go to buy arrows and bolts, but I'm actually going to buy this right away as well. I'm going to make Arna our sword and shield, sword and board, because it's so durable, and I find it to be a nice, relaxing way to just be tanky. The board shield right here, you can see it's only 25 crowns, and it's so much better than our little buckler, our fish shield that we have. It gives you 12% block chance, 5% more, way more block power. It does reduce your energy. It doesn't help you counter as much, but it's just a great shield early for us. We can get better than this, of course, but for now, this is a low investment. I'm just going to equip it, and I'm going to sell this to him, just drag it over and drop it off. He sells this hammer that you can use to pull out bent or errant nails, but I'm not going to buy that. And this is where we would come to buy some nice bolts. And he doesn't actually have any right now. All he has are these leaf-shaped bolts, so we don't need to buy those. And let's see. Another quest is down here. Oh, pro tip, by the way, I forgot to mention this. At any time, to see interactables on the map, just hold left alt on the keyboard, and everything that you could pick up or interact with will be highlighted. So, for example, there's Henbane right here. There's Mindwort right here. These are just random herbs that are growing throughout the town. It is not stealing to take them. Remember, the icon will be red if it is. And herbs are amazing, and I'll show you why in a moment. Looks like the herbalist is not outside. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to talk to our man here. And this is where you can come to buy healing salves, bandages, recipes for alchemical stuff. Anything medical, this guy is going to sell it. You can also sell him herbs if you like. Herbal extract for reducing pain. Antidote syringe. If you get poisoned, snakes are a thing. Poison will kill you very quickly in this game, so these are nice to have. I'm not going to buy anything from him right now. I just want to point out what he has. But talk to him again. Any news? And he does have a task for you. And this is an easy quest where he wants you to go ahead and get a tuft of spearmint, fleawort, and a couple leaves of agrimony. So that's one of each. And it's just an easy quest that we can do just picking up herbs around the area. So we're going to pick up this quest. Okay, and the last thing we want to do is move over here, and we're going to go up into this building. This is the kind of elder's house / guard, garrison, and prison. So we come into this doorway here, and I want you to talk to this guy at the desk, and the elder has been told to provide us with equipment. You can choose whatever you want. Don't choose a one-handed weapon necessarily, because she's already got a good sword. If you want to go two-handed, you could get a junk two-handed weapon from them. But what I recommend is to choose a ranged weapon and to take a crossbow. And this crossbow is not great, but I'm going to push I to open the inventory, push W to switch to our second weapon slot. I'm going to drop the crossbow here, and then you see when I put that in, the shield icon changes to the silhouette of a quiver, and I'm just going to put my bolts right there. Then we have a crossbow for hitting at range. We're probably not going to be using this permanently, but early on, it's so useful to be able to just soften up an enemy from range to make life easier for us. You're not going to be very accurate with this. It's a terrible crossbow, but if you get a hit here and there, it's certainly worth it, and this is free. So I'm just going to close the inventory with I, and you could see my character now has a crossbow out, and if I push 9, which we map to reloading, I will pull it back, and you see the icon changes to red, and now I can unload my bolt if I want to, but I don't. I always want to have a bolt loaded. Then if I switch back to my sword and shield, if I need to shoot, I can push W, and I'm loaded up and ready to go. So now we have a loaded ranged weapon in our second weapon set, and we need to go upstairs to talk to the elder. And here's Odar right here. And I'm just progressing through his dialogue. He has a quest for us to do, and it's called Bandit's Den. Now, I'm actually not going to get this quest. I just want to show you where to get it. We're going to come back and get this later. I want to raise 1 level of experience with our character before we get the contract, because you are on a time limit for the contract, and it makes it easier if we're just a little bit stronger to go and clear this within the time limit to make sure we get full payment. So I'm going to show you that this is it, and you can see how it has a green skull. This is rating the difficulty of the contract. Everything at the beginning of the game that we want is a 1 skull contract. They will be challenging, but we're going to do these together so that we can learn how to survive and thrive and make some money. I'm going to say I need to ask something else, and does he have any rumors? Not really. And he doesn't even have anything to sell. He used to sell stuff, doesn't really have much right now. And I'm going to push escape and be done. So if I push J to open up my journal, you can see we got ourselves 5 extra quests just by talking to people in Osbrook. We have our main quest. We got a crossbow. We've discussed the basics of the controls, the UI, and now it's time to go out into the world and start fighting, and we're going to do that in the next episode. This is going to be a complete beginner's guide series because Stoneshard is a complicated game. It's a difficult game. There's a lot to cover, and I want to do it thoroughly and slowly so that you can follow along and have a great grasp of the game, because really, once you get going in this, it's so much fun. It's so enjoyable, but it can be really prohibitive in the early stages as you're just understanding the challenges that this game presents, and hopefully this guide series is going to mitigate and alleviate most of those challenges. If you are a veteran Stoneshard player and you'd like to add anything to this series at any time, correct any mistakes that I've made, any tips that you've learned along the way and want to share them to help other new players get into this game, that would be fantastic. Please put those in the comments below, but I ask that you do so in a way that's not too in the weeds in terms of details and not too spoilery. Make it for somebody who's maybe never played the game but just needs some survival advice. That would be awesome. Thank you so much. And if you are starting out in the game and you have any questions for me, please post those in the comments. I'd love to help you out. I will check you all in the next episode. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.